ரம்யா பேசுறேன். நீங்க தான் ஹோஸ்டல்னு காமிக்குது. சரி சரி. இல்ல எனக்கு இன்னொருத்தவங்களை கோ ஹோஸ்டா இருக்கணும். ஆ சரி சார். ஒரே நிமிஷம். சரி. ஹலோ. Wait with the co-host. Did you send the
Hello.
Yes, sir. Hello. Hello, sir.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Good evening, sir.
Evening, sir. So we welcome you for this second session for the FDP hosted by Department of Language, Culture and Society, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, and Department of Linguistics, Tetso College, Dimapur, Nagaland. We'll just wait for maybe a few minutes more. The session is being live streamed on YouTube too.
Okay. Um, Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the second session of day one. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Kalaidpu Taimai, who is an eminent scholar of oral traditions, indigenous narratives, and language revitalization. So, Dr. Kalaidpu Taimai is working as an assistant professor in the Department of Linguistics, Utkal University of Culture, Bhubaneswar, Odisha. His research interest includes descriptive linguistics, morphology, phonetics and phonology, morphosyntax, Tibeto-Burman language linguistics, ethno-linguistics, and interfaces of language and culture. So he did his PhD in the Department of Language, Literature, Linguistics, University of Delhi. He was also a postdoctoral fellow in the Center for Studies in Language, Literature and Culture, Utkal University, Vani Vihar. He has conducted several advanced research projects on language documentation with a special focus on the endangered languages of Northeast India. He has presented several research papers in international and national seminars and conferences, and also have published numerous research articles in peer-reviewed journals. Um, we are delighted to welcome you, Dr. Kalaidpu. Now the platform is yours, so you can take over the time.
Okay, thank you, Yachavini, for the warm welcome and introduction. Am I loud enough? Can you hear me properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, there might be some echo because I'm in my office.
It's okay, sir.
And, and my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. All right. Okay, before I start, I have to beg your apology. Yochubini, can you do one thing? Can you share the slides for me? I will send the PPT to you right away.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. No worries.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for this.
It's okay.
All right.
Meanwhile, can the participants please turn on your camera? We'll take a group pic. Thank you.
Somehow I'm not able to attach the, no, when my internet connection, it's taking long. Okay. Is Wicham in the room, Zoom, in the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I have sent my PPT to your email. Can you please share with me, please? I'm so sorry for these inconveniences. I have sent my PPT to your email. You please share with YouTubeni and let YouTubeni do the screen sharing
Yeah,
for my
sure.
PPT. Yeah.
Okay, I got the PPT here. Just give me a few minutes. I
Okay.
will. Yeah.
I'm doing this because my laptop have some issue, and I don't know. I've been trying for the last 2 hours to charge my battery, but it's not charging.
It's okay,
So
sir. No
if
worries.
anything goes wrong, you have the PPT and we can continue the talk. So for that reason, before we start, I just wanted to, keep
Oh.
a copy with you as well. Yeah.
So do you want me to share or
Yeah, you
you want?
share the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it visible?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
First of all, I thank the organizing committee, the two institutions for giving me this privilege to be part of this program. And today I'll be talking about from oral literature to classroom, integrating endangered literature in language revitalization curricula. So the focus would be today's talk, the focus would be on the importance of language revitalization, and I will give more emphasis on the documentation of oral literature of endangered languages and how we can convert those oral literature into a text form for pedagogical materials. So that would be the main focus of the talk. You can go to the first slide. So we will talk about what oral literature is and why does it matter to revitalize it. And we'll talk about curriculum designs. We'll talk about language documentation, as I have mentioned earlier, and pedagogical strategies to integrate oral traditions or literature into classroom settings, and little bit and about translation and some challenges and ethical considerations. So we will, I will try to, go one by one accordingly, as I have highlighted here in this slide. So to begin with, let us first try to understand what oral literature is. I'm sure many of you are aware of what this oral literature is, what is oral literature. But just to refresh your memory, let me highlight this definition once again. So oral literature or folk literature is a genre of literature that is spoken or sung in contrast to that which is written. Finnegan describes oral literature as verbal art transmitted by word of mouth, performed to an audience, and preserved through repeated social practice across generations. Finnegan, 2012. So basically, oral literature refers to culturally embedded spoken art forms transmitted across generations. And the main characteristics of this literature is it is transmitted orally, and there is absence of fixed form. So when a person narrates a story, which is oral literature, he might narrate in a different way than the other person. So there is no fixed form, though the central theme of the story would remain the same. So when we talk about oral literature, we can include folktales and myths, legends and origin stories, ritual songs and chants. And then we have proverbs, riddles, epics, historical narratives, lullabies, and so on. So crucially, these are not merely texts, but performative cultural practices involving specific contexts, audiences, gesture, and prosodies. So we have these different types of oral literature that we have seen just as I have mentioned just now. And these oral literatures have different functions. Now, some of the functions of this oral literature includes transmission of cultural knowledge, and it helps in expressing moral values and worldview of the community. And it encodes history and ecological knowledge. And also it reinforces group identity and belongingness. And also it can serve as a pedagogical tool for language learning. And then it motivates intergenerational communication. So for endangered communities, oral literature often survives even when everyday language use declines, making it a powerful entry point for revitalization. So these oral literatures, are a very important source of knowledge from language point of view, as well as from the community's treasure. I mean, it is a treasure trove of information for the concerned community. So for that matter, the oral literature is a very important very important to be, used for the pathological materials. Now, I'm talking about the endangered community or endangered languages, and these languages lacks written sources or recorded texts, and for generations they have been relying on their oral tradition, where this information stories are passed on from generation to generation. So my focus is on these endangered languages or endangered community and their equally endangered oral literature. Now, let us move to what this endangered language is or endangered languages are. The current Ethnologue, which is a language database, listed 7,139 distinct languages spoken in the world today. And out of this, roughly 40% of the languages are now endangered. And what is meant by that, endangered? So when a language is at the risk of losing all of its native speakers and falling out of use within the next generations, it is referred to as an endangered language. So there are chances that the language that that is being spoken today will not be spoken in the next generation or the following generation in following 2-3 generations. So such type of languages are known as endangered languages. Now, if a language loses all of its speakers, it becomes an extinct language. And according to this database, more than 3,000 world's languages are at risk of dying out in the coming century if nothing is done. And according to the People's Linguistics Survey of India, a total of 220 Indian languages have disappeared in the last 50 years, and that another 150 could vanish in the next half century as speakers die and their children fail to learn their ancestral tongue. So in India, the UNESCO has listed about 200 endangered languages in India. And these languages are spoken in every state in India, but they are mainly clustered into two main regions. One is the Northeast region, and the other is the Central East India, where tribal populations dominate. So most of this endangered language most of these endangered languages of India does not have writing system, or writing is very new to them. Maybe say for they started writing some 50 years back or 100 years back. And in most of these languages, they don't have their own script, so they have to adapt script of another language. For generations, they have relied on their oral tradition, where language, traditional practices, ethos, belief system, worldview, etc. are passed on mouth to mouth. There were no written records, and many of these communities still lacks written text. But that doesn't mean that they lack literature. They have abundance of it in oral form. So how do we, or why do we integrate this oral literature in revitalization? One is oral literature motivates speakers emotionally. It reconnects people to their ancestral knowledge. It provides culturally relevant content, unlike external primers that may be pedagogically sound but culturally empty. Communities respond positively when teaching materials reflect their stories, heroes, cosmology, and history. And oral traditions also preserve authentic phonological, grammatical, and stylistic features of the language. And the children also learned languages best through stories. So narrative input supports vocabulary, syntax, and discourse structure. So incorporation of local narratives strengthens cultural empowerment and combat language shame. So for this reason, we need to integrate oral literature in text. Now, so from where do we get this oral literature? Now, in many of these communities, we will find elders or people who are traditional bearers who knows about their stories about their community. But one thing is, in this endangered community, many of these elders are dying, passing away, and the younger generations are not able to, learn everything from these elders before their passing. So these literatures are dying out along with with these elders, community elders who knows their oral literature. And then there are storytellers, and then there are ceremonial specialists, archive recordings, published collections. Published collections may not be much, but now with the increase in research, we will find some published materials. And we will also find some fieldwork recordings by linguists, anthropologists, ethnographer, etc. So these are the sources for oral literature. Now, I would like to draw your attention on how to collect this literature so that it may be used for pedagogical materials. And I want to focus on language documentation, which is a very important process in revitalizing endangered languages. So let us first try to understand what is language documentation. So documentary linguistics, people also say documentary linguistics in the subject of linguistics. It is considered as a subfield of linguistics that is concerned with the methods, tools, and theoretical underpinnings for compiling a representative and lasting multipurpose record of natural language or one of its variety. Himmelmann, 2006. So a similar definition is given by Woodbury, 2010, as the creation, annotation, preservation, and dissemination of transparent records of a language. So language documentation is, by its nature, multidisciplinary, and it draws concept and techniques from linguistics, ethnography, psychology, computer science, recording arts, and so on. Now, Himmelmann, 2006, has also identified 5 significant features of language documentation. So language documentation focus on primary data. Language documentation concerns the collection and analysis of an array of primary language data to be made available for a wide range of users. The second point is explicit concern for accountability. So access to primary data and representations of it makes evaluation of linguistic analysis possible and expected. Concern for long-term storage and preservation of primary data. Language documentation includes a focus on archiving in order to ensure that documentary materials are made available to potential users into the distant future. So I'll talk a little bit about archiving after in the preceding section. And the work in interdisciplinary team, documentation requires input and expertise from a range of disciplines and is not restricted to linguistics alone. And close cooperation with and direct involvement of the speech community. So language documentation requires active and collaborative work with community members, both as producers of language materials and co-researchers. So when we do language documentation, we have to identify this, we have to know these features and try to follow it. Now, about working with the community people, say for projects, a funding agency who funds for the language documentation project would encourage or even suggest that we involve the community member, hire them, train them, so that, you know, even when we as a researcher or primary investigator finish the project, the community members would continue the work. So we need to train these community members. We need to involve community members in language documentation. And perhaps before continuing, it is also useful to identify what language documentation is not. So we have to identify what is not language documentation. It is not about collecting material to preserve it without analyzing it. So Hammelman has argued that language documentation should strive to produce a comprehensive record of the linguistic practices characteristic of a given speech community. But to do so requires the application of analytical theories and techniques to transcribe, translate, annotate, and disseminate these records. So it's not only recording material without to preserve it without analyzing it. With the availability of technology these days, say phones and all this thing, there is increase in recordings, but many of these recordings is not accompanied by annotation, analyzing, transcription, or translation. So it may not be of use for other researchers. So just recording without analyzing is not language documentation. It is not language documentation plus technology. Some commentators have suggested that language documentation is just descriptive linguistics as practiced by early 20th century scholars. For example, with the addition of technologies such as digital audio and video recordings. This is a misrepresentation which fails to appreciate those aspects of language documentation which differentiate it from description, such as the close attention given to methodology and to the nature and role of data and metadata within the analytical processes. Okay, just give me a minute. I'm afraid my laptop would run out of battery anytime. It's not charging now. Some problem today.
Because my research is specifically restricted with just the basic term of Hindu and not the.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, to continue. So, of course, when it comes to language documentation, it is not necessarily about endangered languages per se. So language documentation can be done on language that are not endangered as well. So it is not only for endangered languages. It is not a fad or passing phase. So language documentation is a development that is not a temporary aberration within linguistics, but represents a paradigm shift within the discipline. So there are several reasons why language documentation as a field has emerged over the past 15 years. The first of this is the growing concern among linguists and others about the crisis facing the world's languages and threats of linguistic diversity. As mentioned earlier, 40% of the world's languages are endangered. Secondly, linguists have shown increasing interest both in theoretical research and in linguistic typology. Thirdly, there has been a move toward a more humanistic view of language that pays attention to language as use rather than language as system. Fourthly, as mentioned above, the emergence of funding resources and requirement, the requirements of the funder to adopt a documentary perspective and to archive recorded data and analysis has also influenced researcher to do this documentation work. So the components of language documentation are recording of media and text, transfer to manage data, and adding values. Adding values is the transcription, annotation, translation, and adding of metadata to the recordings, and archiving. Archiving is the systematic collection of preservation and organization of linguistic data, such as recordings, texts, transcriptions, to ensure long-term access to the data, to the materials. I have given this link here. This is a link where I have archived some of my recordings, some of my documentation. You can, if you click in this, you will find the archive of what I have documented. Actually, it's a Liangmei language resource in University of North Texas. It is under the Corsal. It is under Corsal, and me and Wicham, we have contributed to this archive we have submitted our documentation in Liangmei language. Other archive platforms are ELAR, Paradix, and then yes, ELAR, and yes, as I have mentioned, ELAR, Paradix, the language archive, and so on. We can find many more archiving platforms and use this to put our materials or texts so that it will be preserved for future use. It can be used by future researcher, can be used by community member, it can be used by other researcher who are interested in the language. So when language is documented, something more is made available besides the form of the language to the user of the document through interpretation of it. It is a knowledge of the social system mediated by the language, cultural values, signified in language, and the cognitive pattern of interpretation of the social and natural environment codified in the language. So these materials will become a very important source when we want to develop pedagogical materials for these languages, especially these endangered languages. And other aspect that you have to keep in mind when we do documentation one is obtained informed consent. So informed consent is the voluntary, informed, and ongoing permission given by a participant or a community to be recorded, interviewed, photographed, or have their linguistic and cultural knowledge documented with full awareness of the purpose, risk, benefits, and how the data will be used. So this is a very important process. My initial research, I don't have much knowledge about this informed consent, and I usually used to proceed without this. But now that I know about this informed consent, it is very important. We have to sign where there are formats, written format, or we can write our own, or we can even make a audio, video of this informed consent. So when we do this language documentation, we have to keep this in mind. I don't know about other subject, but in linguistics, as far as I know, when we start our research, we have no idea about this informed consent, and we just proceed without having this informed consent form filled. Now let us try to avoid those things. And we have to respect the sacred or restricted narratives. We have to involve the community at all stages, and we have to return materials to the community. When the community member wants to see the material, we have to make it available for them. Okay. Okay, I'm so sorry for this inconveniences. Let me try to join from my phone.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. What is meeting passcode again?
A minute, sir. She's sending it.
Huh?
Give us a minute. Yansu is
Yeah.
sending it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot access to the laptop. That's a problem. You have
No
to,
problem, sir. No problem. We
or
understand
if
that.
you can verbally tell me the number.
Passcode alone, 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, can you hear me?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
06?
Okay, let me just try.
06? Yeah.
06
63
63
59. He went to, I think his laptop is.
Are you able to join, sir? You're using your phone now, right?
Yes, I'm using my phone now.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So, okay, I'm so sorry for inconveniences. Of all the days, it happened today. Okay, so to continue with, let us look at the principles of integrating those oral literature into the curricula. Now, the first point is to develop communicative competence. Now, children, or yes, we can say that children, they learn best when they are taught with stories, tales that they are familiar with, that will trigger interest in them. So, as mentioned earlier, the documented materials can be used or can be, converted into pedagogical material to develop into text for use in schools, which will improve the communicative competence of the children. And not only that, these oral literatures build cultural pride and identity. It is a source of identity. The literature itself, those literature itself are part of identity of community members. So we have stories of their origin, their migration, and all those stories that are related, their everyday practices. So all the stories are part of their identity. And then this, if integrating this oral literature will ensure intergenerational transmission. As mentioned, in endangered languages, the intergenerational transmission is decreased. Decreased in a sense, the younger generation are not as fluent in their mother tongue as their parents' generation or their grandparents' generation. So building these materials in their language, in their mother tongue, will ensure this intergenerational transmission. And it will make learning enjoyable and contextually relevant. When they learn about their culture or when they learn about things that they can relate to, it will make learning enjoyable for the students. And we can produce new domains of use, as in, media, in different media. Of course, we are talking about school texts and many other domains we can use the language. Yeah, go to the next slide. So this pedagogical approaches to using oral literature. Now, I have 2 points here. That is pedagogy for teaching mother tongue. What I have discussed in the previous section is mostly about teaching mother tongue to the students. Why teaching mother tongue is important is because, like I said, the languages are, the knowledge of the mother tongue is decreasing. And at the same time, when teaching is carried out in languages that are not familiar to the students, the learning rate is decreased or the interest in learning is much lesser. There is a survey conducted in Jharkhand recently, and it is found that many of the students, 80–90% of students dropped out from primary school because the teaching is in Hindi, language which they do not follow, and which make learning a kind of burden for the children. So in order to create these teaching materials in mother tongue, and in order to use mother tongue in instruction, we have to integrate oral literature, which is the best source of language for the particular language that is concerned. So we have this pedagogy for teaching of mother tongue. And then another one is translation. So translation, as we all know, so it is the communication of the meaning of a source language text by means of an equivalent target language text. Now, when it comes to translation, we have to understand that most of this oral literature are not in text form. So for that matter, that language documentation is very important in this process. Unless we document the language, we wouldn't have text to translate. And we begin with this documentation, and then after documenting the stories, narratives, history, we can translate those in other languages like English or any other dominant language of the region and use it as a text in school. So for example, when we can document, if we document, say, some folk tales, folk stories of a Northeast community, we translate it and we incorporate it in the textbook. That will make the students, learn about their own story, and that will create a sense of pride, as well as it will trigger interest in them to study that subject. So these two things have to be kept in mind. One is teaching in mother tongue or learning of mother tongue, and translation of the indigenous texts into languages that are used in education. So that will help in introducing different worldview, different cultures, different tradition, different practices to others as well. So this approach, we have these two approaches, and we have to keep this in mind when we develop or when we work in this pedagogy. Yes, go to the next one. But some of the challenges in integrating oral literature. So as mentioned earlier, there is scarcity of documented materials. You know, I have been working in the Northeast, and let me take the example of Manipur. In Manipur, there are more than 15 tribal languages that are taught in high school. But they are, I mean, in the same language, they are teaching about other, in that language class, they are teaching about other language or other texts because they don't have their own documented materials. So the language teacher there used to lament, I wish we could, you know, teach our own story, our own folktales, our own poetries into this text so that we can teach our own language, our own story with the students. So there is this scarcity of documented materials. So for this reason, this documentation, language documentation is the need of the hour, and researchers have to should think about venturing into this language documentation. And again, we have a lack of trained teachers. So each language, the grammar, let's say the word formation, the grammatical pattern, the sound system of each language is different. And we have to teach the teachers according to the nature, according to the pattern, according to the grammar of the language to teach to the younger children. In many cases, they try to fit in these languages, these endangered languages try to fit in their language into English grammar, for example, or grammar of Hindi, where it will not be possible for the language to express certain things. So there are this lack of expertise in the subject. And then, of course, there's pressure from dominant language education. In Indian context, the English medium school is, is highly regarded. Everybody wants to be in English medium school, and the regional languages are neglected. And of course, there's a lot of pressure. Even the parents itself, they want their children to be educated in English medium school or languages or a more dominant languages. So we have these constraints or these challenges. And some stories, rituals, chants, which have valuable knowledge cannot be used publicly because of their traditional restriction, and we miss out so many knowledge in that. And again, there is orthographic disputes in newly written languages. So languages, most of the languages in Northeast, we use this modified Roman script, and everybody has their own way of writing the language. Say, for example, in Liang Mai language, one person will write in his own way, another person will write in his own way. We cannot say which one is wrong, which one is right. So this kind of disputes or this kind of problems arise in these newly written languages. So we have to tackle these issues. And variations across dialects. Of course, some will say their variation is right, their variation is the correct form, and they will the other variation is a lesser form. So these are the challenges that we face while trying to integrate this oral literature. But at the same time, we have to work in this language documentation. We have to work on translation, we have to work on transcription, annotation, and try to incorporate those materials in language, in pedagogical materials, so that the worldview of different communities, the knowledge of different communities will be brought in classroom. The knowledge of the oral literature, the knowledge that is in the oral literature will be brought inside the classroom and can be taught to students. Okay, next. I think that is all. Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for your patient listening despite of technical issue.
So the floor is now open for a few questions.
Participants, you can leave your questions in the chat box also. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the chat box.
Hello, good evening. This is Dr. Sulagna. I have one question.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
you are.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir. Sorry, a very good evening. And it was really a wonderful presentation, as you said, in spite the technical glitch. Sir, I have a question because it is related to a researcher who is doing this particular work on our language from Nagaland. And you have already addressed this problem, but I would like you to just explain us or help us how to deal with this problem. So my question is formal authorization from this indigenous community we are working with, if it is mandatory for researcher who want to translate and publish indigenous folklore, because you also talked about oral traditions and folklore, folk tales. So suppose that researcher wants to translate it, then who determines the quality and cultural accuracy of the resulting translation? Who will take the final decision that the translation that has been done is maybe, if not fully accurate, but maybe something that is acceptable? So how can we go
Yes.
ahead with?
Okay. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, that is a very important aspect, very important question. Yeah, so for example, when we are documenting a text or when we are documenting oral literature, let's say a folktale. So first thing we have to look for a person who have best knowledge of those folktales. See, not everybody in the, I have experienced this. I went to village and I thought that the oldest person in the village would have the best knowledge of folktales. But surprisingly, it is not so. Even a younger person who have keen interest in their oral literature will have better knowledge than someone who is old. Now, when we start with this documentation process, we have to find out who have the best knowledge of the oral literature. And that person would, of course, would be able to give the best interpretation of the story. Now, coming back to the authenticity or the best way, as I have mentioned earlier, the oral literature does not have a fixed form. If you remember, I have mentioned this in the starting of my talk. So it is very difficult to say that this is the best or this is not the best. Each speaker or each narrator may have different translation of his or her own, right? So, but of course, that would be acceptable for the community member, I believe. And yes, I have seen works, by others who have come and worked in Northeastern languages. They have translated story, folk tales, very good. I mean, very appreciated. But there is lack of, let's say, annotation, in a sense that some missing link in giving out the accurate traditional practices. And that would be best given by a community speaker. And each community will have their own authority. Let's say if you are working in our language, I believe they'll have our literature committee or our that committee who will have the authority to speak on that particular language. So we need to have a link. We need to engage those kind of people, show them our work, and see whether this is appropriate or not. And with their judgment, I think whatever you publish, once they give a go, then I think it should be perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Now I just have another question. You were also talking about analyzing this folk tale before translating it, right? So before translate, we need to analyze it. So we are trying to focus on folklores, folk tales that talk about sustainability and nature, human, animal nature, and how nature is important for human beings. And it's also talking about this climate. So when we are looking at it from this perspective of a PhD, PhD thesis. So what would be your suggestion, sir? How should we go about it? I mean, how should we address?
How do you analyze the text?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So when I was talking about analysis, say, since my background is linguistics, I'm from linguistics, we have this glossing, transcription, we try to identify word, grammatical categories. That becomes part of analyzing the language, which is very important in grammar, in the grammar of the language. So that is one part of language analyzing, identifying the grammatical category of the words, to understand the word formation, to understand the sentence structure of the language, and so on and so forth. So that is one way of doing analysis. Another way, from the literature point of view, you can look at the hidden message or hidden, morals given by, hidden message in the story, which will be best interpreted by the native speaker. I mean, if you are working with the language, you have to ask, what is this story for? What is this story about? What is the meaning of this and that? So there is another hidden, not just the surface structure, but moral, and the meaning can be interpreted. There is a deeper meaning with such stories. So you can do analysis on that. You can also you can understand when you do this analysis, when you try to understand the morals, the hidden message, those interpretations will help you to understand the worldview of that community, which can be if you present it to the other parts, to the other community, which will be a great contribution from your research. You expose a worldview of one community into another community.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. It was really a wonderful experience. Thank you so much.
Any questions, participants?
Okay.
Sir, I have a question.
Mm.
So you're talking about the oral literary traditions, yes? And I just want this connect with Viksit Bharat 2047. We actually aim to be a global knowledge leader. See that India aims to be so. So how do you think India can position its oral literary traditions as a unique intellectual asset on the global stage? What role do you think digital humanities or AI-based tools can play in preserving these endangered oral literature by 2047?
Yeah. So I actually somehow I have I mean, in order to cut short my talk, I have missed certainly the NEP 2020 have given a lot of emphasis on promotion of our indigenous languages or regional languages or languages, different languages of India. And there with that comes this responsibility of, you know, doing more research in these languages, the oral literatures of these languages. Now, one thing, in my opinion, the oral literature as it is, it may fade away because, yeah, this generation, say for example, my grandma used to narrate folk tales when we were young. Now, my mother knows some folk tales. But my sisters or our generation, we are not narrating that stories that oral stories to our children. We are talking about other stories that we read in the textbook. There were rhymes that we grew up learning, but that was cut short with Johnny, Johnny, then rain, then go away. So that thing is, so oral literature might fade away. So for that matter, this documentation as well as archiving is very important to preserve it. So documentation, language documentation with proper annotation, just reading the thing, that is also important, but then we have to transcribe and translate, and we have to give information on the metadata. Metadata means, let's say if you are narrating a poetry, you have the poetry is the data, and the metadata would be the information about the poetry. What is this poetry about? And what is the theme of the poetry of that particular poetry? What is the significance of that particular poetry? So preserving those things are very important, and there comes language documentation and archiving. So we need to have a strong base of archives of oral literatures in order to preserve all these oral literatures that are dying out. We need thorough research, thorough documentation, extensive documentation and storage, that is archive, so that we can preserve those literatures for generations to come, for the younger generations to learn, and of course incorporate in our texts so that it will remain and the younger generation will learn.
Thank you, sir. If for the younger generation to learn, what kind of pedagogical changes do you think can be implemented in order to preserve this oral literature, oral traditional literature, not as a special content, but as or a knowledge content, but as something which is as part and parcel of our life? How can this be taken to the younger generation? Because you said about younger generation, it should be preserved. Apart from archives and apart from documentation, once we document once we have it in the archive, how are we going to take it to our students? Implementation plan. As a person who is an expert in this, can you please throw light on that?
Yeah, I'm not exactly an expert, but let me
Okay.
mention some of the works that me and my colleague Wicham, who is part of this Getcho College, we have been doing this work. Recently, we published this small book in Liang Mai, rhyme, or we can say a poetry with illustrations. Okay, for children, which is a very common poetry, and we add this illustration pictures that is uh, depicted by the poetry. If the poetry talks about a cow or different animal, we put the illustration of that thing in the book. So we can develop books, storybooks with illustrations, poetry books with illustrations that will grab the attention of younger children. And we can also add how to recite in a correct way that certain poetry. I mean, there is a way of reading a poetry, the rhyme, the rhythm, all those things. We can include that in the uh, text along with the recording. Now we have AI, we are in digital world, so everything is almost possible. So that way, we develop textbooks, storybooks, which will grabs the attention of the younger children, which will make them want to read uh, that particular storybook or poetry and learn in their own language. Now, I was talking about that particular poetry book. We did it in bilingual, two languages, bilingual, Liang Mai and English. English translation and the original rhyme and English translation with the illustration. And it was like well accepted by teachers. They are very happy with this kind of things. Very excited. They see.
So I guess there's a lag in your network.
Yes.
You were saying that
Yeah.
your book,
Can
that
you hear
book
me?
was well received, right? That illustration, the picture book or the illustration.
Yes, yeah.
During the fag end, we were
Yeah,
not able to hear
that
you.
was well received. Yeah, that was well.
Uh,
Okay, yeah.
Any questions from participant side? I actually also had this question, but Sulagna ma'am pitched in that she was. I wanted to ask you about you're saying about documenting an archive, right? So, what are the ethical constraints and considerations a person might have related to documenting? So, this I wanted to ask. Anyway, ma'am had asked that in the Q&A. Answer that. So, if there are no questions, we assume that you all have understood related to oral narratives. We'll be posting the feedback form now in the chat. We request you to complete the feedback form, fill it and send it to us. I think Sir has left the meeting.
Let me share the feedback form in the meantime so that
Yes, Sir is here.
yes.
So those of you who are doing research, I'm sure you can connect. Nowadays, this language, restoring languages has become very prominent, and that even our ICSR project is talking about the tribes and their languages, their culture and all, isn't it? So I'm sure you can contact Sir and get to know about how you can proceed with your research or your project work.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Yes, Sir.
Yeah, so okay. So before we wind up, I would like to take Dr. Taimai for sharing such deep and meaningful insights on preserving endangered narratives. You have actually beautifully highlighted the importance of oral narratives, not just as cultural artifacts, but as living pedagogical resources which can empower communities, which can empower educators as well as learners. So thank you so much for this wonderful talk, and
We are
we are so grateful to have you here with us. Yeah, so
Thank
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 you.
you.
With
Thank you
that,
for having
we
me.
come to the
Thank you
end
for
of
having
the
me.
Thank
Yeah.
you, sir. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Participants, please
Participants,
join
please
us
join us again tomorrow for
day
the
two.
day 2. Thank you.
Day 2, please join by 12:45. Those of you who missed the morning session, we will be sharing you the YouTube link where you have the morning session inputs, because I had a few requests wanting me to share the presentation or the recording. So the YouTube live link is there. I'll share that in the WhatsApp group. Thank you. Thank you, Sinika ma'am. Thank you all. So we leave the meets now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Rohan, are you there in the WhatsApp group which I've created? I've sent a
Yes,
mail,
ma'am.
so I'll share it.
Yeah.
Tonight I'll share that.
Okay, ma'am. And tomorrow, do we have the session?
Yes, tomorrow we have the session at 1 from 1 to 2, 1 to 2:30, and again
Okay.
evening 6 to 7. Sunday we
Oh.
don't have a session. Sunday it's a break.
I was worried about Sunday. That's it. Okay, ma'am.
No, Sunday we don't have a session.
We don't have. Okay, thank you. Thank
We
you.
have also shared the program schedule with you through mail.
Yeah, I got it. I got it through my email. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. We request you to kindly fill the feedback form. It's there in the chat box for you. So we will end the meets now for all of you. Thank you all.